Okay, and welcome back. Hour number 3. It's Monday, and that means it's time for our Fukushima report. We're going to do our best to bring you up to date this hour on what's going on. And let me tell you, if you have not been able to listen on Mondays, and if you've not been able to follow along at the top center column in the news section at Rense, you have been missing the biggest story in known recorded human history. It has been swept under the rug and out the door by the mainstream media. The nuclear power industry has tremendous clout. They don't mess around. This is not a joke. The bottom line is Fukushima has not slowed down at all, releasing deadly over 200 radionuclides into the Pacific Ocean for almost, well, it's over 4.5 years. It's coming up on 5 this March. Nothing is getting better. It's only getting worse. I can't understand how really those buildings have stood up for as long as they have. It's only a matter of time before they eventually do begin to fall over, cave in, and all the rest of it. But meanwhile, we have this non-stop, it's like a river. It's the North Pacific Current. Imagine a river in the ocean. It's moving about 10 to 12 knots, and it is coming over from right off the coast of eastern Japan, Fukushima. And it is carrying with it at 10 to 12 knots, 12 miles, this is called 12 miles an hour, the radiation that we're talking about. It comes across, and off the coast of Washington State, it kind of splits. Half of it or thereabout goes north to Alaska, up the British Columbia coast, into the Gulf of Alaska, where it goes round and around, and like a toilet with no outflush, it just stays there. The rest of it goes down the rest of the Pacific coast, all the way to Baja, and then it turns and heads back across the ocean, going awfully near Hawaii on the way back. So it's really a horrible situation. Dana Durnford has done an awful lot to help us understand how this radiation is impacting the life along the ocean front in British Columbia, in Canada, and now along the West Coast as we watch the same sorts of things happening down here. It is a tragedy beyond measure. You are all at risk. This is not a joke. It is piling up very heavily and densely off the Oregon-Washington borders in the ocean, and it's coming on shore. So there we are. Dana, how are you? Are you there?
I am, Jeff. Thank you.
You've had a very tough last 4 or 5 days. I don't want to go into it and belabor it, but I would just direct everyone to my homepage at the enormous banner at the top of the homepage, which tells the story of Dana Durnford. And all Dana has done is made 5 expeditions, the majority of them in a 21-foot Zodiac with a wooden shell built over it for housing in awfully rough seas. He's risked his life over and over again to take thousands and thousands of photos and video. Incredible. I don't know how many hours of video you have, but a ton. And he's put it all up on his website, thenuclearproctologist.org. Please take a look. And there are issues involved which we're not going to spend a lot of time on for obvious reasons right now. But what's the situation here along the West Coast in the U.S. as far as you know, Dana?
Yeah, that's... I appreciate that banner so much, Jeff.
I'm glad.
That gave me hope in every sense of the word. And I couldn't possibly express what it means to know that the support that you sent my way, how much that changed the game for me and changed the game for everybody. And that is what we needed, right? We desperately needed someone like yourself who carries that much kind of weight and conviction and credit and morals to come out and stand alongside us. And you've done it over and over and over. And once again, unfortunately, you have to rise to that occasion again. And so, but everybody got to understand that it's game on, and that they're rolling this out, and that the only way to get me out there was to eviscerate everything I got there and try to take me down a few notches and slowly start to roll this out. And so they're not trying to avoid it anymore. They got my name up in mainstream media.
Uh-huh.
And so people will read it and go to yell at me, and then they understand that they can't yell at me. And so I'm seeing that now, and I'm getting so many phone calls from so many people.
How nice.
Everybody's trying. Everybody's trying their best. And, we don't know if that'll matter, because they're not playing by any rules. They got no rules. And so
they're answerable to nobody. They have no rules, no.
Yeah, no, they have no rules. They just made this up. They put me in a box in the courthouse, and you couldn't hear the judge, and the judge couldn't hear me.
Really?
And so how can that be good?
Really?
Yeah,
you literally couldn't hear each other.
Right, and they got 12 restrictions on me, and so I'm chipping away at that down to the courthouse tomorrow, and start trying to get some of these lifted, or parts of them lifted, and just keep chipping away at it. And the reality of it is that, I could beat them in court with a nickel and dime lawyer any day of the week. There's no doubt about this. Anybody can beat them in court any time at all. And I beat them in the public sphere, and now that documentation's gone from my site, but I beat them in the public sphere repeatedly, and that's what caused me to finally get so frustrated to say something so outlandish, but yet it has no context. And because it happened a while back, no one's ever got hurt and since then. And I've made videos every day that I got an opportunity ever since it. And so, full episodes, 13 videos have to be removed just in case I did mention somebody's name. And, this is ridiculous that I can't criticize somebody on the internet when it comes to Fukushima, but I can go out and criticize somebody for anything else.
Meanwhile, they can criticize you and your work.
And they are. And so they're out there bludgeoning me in the media. I'm literally being flogged, publicly flogged throughout Canada, and that my family and friends have reached out to me in concern that, maybe there's something happened to me where I had a breakdown or maybe something like that. And just for the record, for everybody out there, I'm nowhere near suicidal. I'll never be anywhere near suicidal. That's not in my genes. I'm a 100%. Let's get it on type of guy till the end of time, and that's what my whole history has been. And so there's and there's a lot of speculation out there that I'm totally depressed and despondent, and I am, but it's not that kind of. It's just that they done that to me, and now we have to go and raise money from people who have given so much, right, and put so much time and energy to get me to finish these expeditions, and that's being assaulted with gibberish.
Yeah.
And go ahead, Jeff. I'm sorry.
No. Go. You go.
So, when you put me in a courtroom, and the first thing the prosecutor says is, "Your Honor, his page is nothing but." He doesn't mention nuclear proctologist. He says Facebook. No, I don't have a Facebook page. And then he talks about YouTube, he doesn't know nothing about the case. He took a warrant from a court in Victoria. Now, Victoria. One of the institutions that I'm tangled up with is in Victoria, British Columbia, Canada. That's UVic. And they're half of that is a law school. So here I am in the same community as a law school looking for justice. Is the most ludicrous thing imaginable. And so I have one lawyer lined up that's looking really good. There's 4 other ones. They're looking good too. And the one that I want to get has 9 Supreme Court cases under his belt. And so he's already proven his point. He's already reached the pinnacle of his career, so to speak. And I think he's, like the rest of them, are in a lot of shock after going over my material and coming to the realization that this is not what he said or they said. This is, my goodness, the oceanist did. And this guy here has the documentations and is their desperate attempt to throttle him in one. It seems like in a panic. It seems like they're totally disarray. But on the other sense, why would they mention my name in public? Because anybody who comes and finds me, or anybody that knows me, knows automatically that can't be possible.
Right.
Right. So yeah, it's a very confusing time for me. I'm under just an incredible amount of strain. The phone doesn't stop ringing. I'm under constant threats. And I feel like every time I hear a car door closing, that they're coming to take me again. And that I feel that like I'm powerless to do anything about it, and that's not. And when that's not doesn't seem right, but I'll fight to the last second. But they're gonna make it up. They got me charged with something that's irrelevant, something that's out of context. They charged me based upon a 1 hour video back in July where there's a salacious audio clip taken out of it without the video, without the pictures of a 1 hour, and then they typed that out. And then so the judge never got to hear the clip, let alone hear that it was an entire video. But I can't even prove that because I can't hear them. They can't hear me. And so I forced them to bring me out so that I can be heard. And the judge never lift her head a single time. And that, I said to the prosecutor, I lashed out at him, which was wrong, obviously, but I said, I don't got a Facebook, so get your facts straight next time. And then, like the rest was fine. I have no issues with that. The police were extraordinary. And I understand that they knew that what they were doing was wrong. They didn't even show up in the courtroom. And that the jailers were extraordinarily considerate with me, and that I was sweating all night because they turned the heat on, bust on me all night, and that they never took my dignity away from me at all. It was only the prosecutor and the belligerence of the court system itself, but not the people who came. I don't think they left me in my home. The warrant came out the same time the Globe and Mail came out with an article about academics being harassed, and I can't go into detail, obviously, but at the same time they issued the warrant. That was on Sunday afternoon, and the police got the warrant right away, and they decided not to come and get me because they knew who I was. They knew I wasn't a threat. They knew that this was just the industry itself and that it didn't make any sense and that the restrictions on it were meant to take away all of my freedoms and that the option was to stay in jail, and I couldn't do it, right? Yeah. And so the reality of it is, what happened was I pulled 300 videos. There was no context left on my site at that stage. Anybody who came to my site that day could not have no concept of what I was talking about because it was disarray. And so I compiled a 19-minute video, which you graciously and thank goodnessly featured and features and continue to features and has right in an absolutely prestigious, unimaginable spot on your page. And that was designed to give context to everything that the thousands of hours of documentation that I just pulled off my site. And so here I am, I'm left with talking to a lawyer, and the only video that makes any context for him, but not really, is the video that I posted a few days ago because everything else is in such disarray. And that when I got home from jail, I had 4 strikes on my account. And so it was very difficult to appeal to people that this was egregious crimes were committed against me. And, it's laudable that I talked to CBC Radio. I've done 2 interviews. They asked me, one was in a supermarket, and I hold up the whole line for 15 to 20 minutes. And I answered every question. They called me back a few hours later. I answered every question, and completely honestly. And they didn't even quote me or play a sound clip. But yet the opposing one, they gave them all the airtime they wanted.
They didn't play any of your interviews?
No, and all he said was I wasn't a scientist. But yet I have 14,000 hours underwater, more than either one of the 2 people I'm accused of, and that I looked at the species where they only went out and took water samples. I don't need to tell you, but for the people out there, that, this they've taken this to a new level. They're going to bury me somewhere if they get the opportunity. And that right now we're in a fight for the facts. And
the lawyers you've talked to sound like they have been all of a sudden brought into reality and are shocked.
Yeah, exactly. It stuns them.
They didn't know it because their government has been lying to them. They didn't know who I was. They couldn't know without knowing who. I got to laugh when I say that one. It's impossible to really be knowledgeable about Fukushima without being just flooded with my stuff. It's impossible, see? Correct.
And so when they didn't know who I was or nothing about me, then that worries me because that means how do I get them up to speed?
You have to educate them. And
it's hard.
I'm sure if anybody could do it, it'd be you, but it takes time. It's strenuous. You've got to walk them through it. You've got to sense how they're taking it. It's hard. Right under Dana's banner at the top of my homepage. You look under news, you will see it. It's right up there at the top. Second banner. Look at the pictures. Look under the text below his picture and the two others, the before and after. I've added a new link. See the British Columbia coast before and after Fukushima.
Yeah.
Shocking photos.
It's heartbreaking.
Look at the pictures, ladies and gentlemen.
I actually can't look at it very often. Those
I don't
like
to look at them either. I understand.
They freak me out. Everybody has to look at them, but it's not cool. It's really something. In the one sense, we got to try to make the good of everything, make something good out of this, and that's what we're doing, of course, here tonight. And what we continue to do is we continue to seek solutions. We continue to seek a conversation, not a debate anymore, because we've already documented the coast. And I'm going to tell you, there's a story on urchins, might be dying of sea star wasting. I'm looking for it on my computer here, but I don't want to bring up a page that we cut into this here with the bandwidth. But anyway, I was just reading a story from the Smithsonian from a few months ago, because I was on the ocean when that one came out and I never read it. And so I was reading the story, and they had based their study up on 200 miles of the coastline. Now, me and Terry originally done 200 kilometers of our coastline. We went to 9 places and done samples. Now, what Smithsonian was talking about was researchers done 4 samples along a 200-mile coastline of America. And because of those 4 samples, not 9 like me and Terry done, and not the 15,000 miles that I've done after, certainly, but just based upon those 4 samples, they came out and said that the sea urchins might disappear with the same disease as the sea star wasting disease. That's staggering. That's a staggering statement based upon just 4 samples.
Yeah.
And then under that model, then everything I say is justifiable. See?
Correct.
Yeah, everything that you've said and anybody else has said about the actual implications and the documentation.
And they made that projection on just 4 sample areas. Wow.
Yeah, just 4 sample areas. They said it's gone throughout the coastline is what we might see happening. It's very scary looking. And I mean, but when I read it was based up on just 4 samples from 4 different areas in a 200-mile stretch. I was like, well, compared to what we done, Dana and the Hounds of Fukushima and everybody else that supported us, yeah, not cool at all. That means, unfortunately, that... And there's another headline there that I never got to, was about a couple of thousand birds had abandoned their eggs in Florida this summer. And so as I read through that last night, the story was actually that all the species, not just one species, but all the species abandoned their birds and that they had their eggs.
They really did. No, wait a minute. This is, okay, I haven't heard this. Yeah. This is in Florida. What part of the state do you know? You remember?
Yeah, I can bring up the headline in a few seconds.
Yeah, and so all the species of birds abandon their eggs and their nest this spring. That's
thousands of birds abandon eggs nest on Florida Island was the headline. And so as you go down through it, they try to, at one point they suggest it could be there's a lot of drug interdiction traffic along that coastline.
No.
But then they just blow that out of the water and say, but it's highly speculative. And it's just, a conjecture, really. And so, thousands of birds abandon the eggs is just another one of these headlines that we don't hear about, and you have to wonder why.
Was it on the Gulf side of the state of Florida, the Gulf of Mexico side?
It's Seahorse Bay.
I don't know
that's
where
all I can tell you.
Yeah.
And I don't know what side it was on. And of course, she knows the voracious appetite that I got. 150, 200 headlines a day on Fukushima.
I know.
If somebody says Fukushima, I found it and read it. And by the way, your banner, I found that I must have been 30 places last night, different websites. Just done a fantastic job of replicating and linking directly back to you. And I just goes to show
really?
You,
have they? Oh, yeah. That's wonderful.
Yeah, it was so. Just really encouraging to see that kind of... We're seeing a lot of conversation on the net. That's a trending topic. I typed in Dana and I got Durnford arrested. I was like, okay, that's probably, I haven't seen that one before, so something's going on. And that,
Well, their smartest move would be for them just to dismiss this, leave you alone, and keep with their lying the government keeping with their lying campaign. I don't know what this new government in Canada is going to do. Is there any indication that they may be sympathetic to this and may want to reveal the truth?
they, when you're talking about an inbreed, the guy who's there now, I mean, they would have elected a hockey stick at this point. They would have elected a beer bottle stopper, anything just to get rid of Harper.
Yeah.
But he's firmly entrenched in the elites, private institutions.
Oh, yes, he is. Yeah.
Yeah, and he was out doing lectures for a year and a half before he got elected, getting $250,000 for saying that he's a little dirty inbreed. And this is Canadian tradition, is to go out and crumble those people.
So nothing
Yoshi
really encouraging there.
And put his support out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, how's Yoshi doing? I haven't really heard.
He's on in an airplane right now. He'll be here next week.
Is that right? Yeah, he's offered to come to Vancouver even if they arrest him.
Yeah, no, he sends his best.
How good that soul is.
He's very concerned.
Yeah. And, he is. No, he was definitely genuine. He's outraged, and he gets it. He got it. He read the story, and I didn't need to tell him anything. He said he got it right away.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, they're trying to pull the rug out from underneath me. And of course, they weren't counting on Jeff Rense and the Fukushima hounds and coming out and letting them have it with both barrels.
That homepage banner is getting looked at all over the world.
My goodness. John B. Wells this morning. So we're going to be moving out there all this week, but it looks so good.
Good. All right. Well, we'll keep at it. Do look at the new link I put under the bottom of the banner and the text. See the BC coast before and after Fukushima. Shocking photos. Take a look. This is an issue that is not going to go away. It's only going to become worse and worse and worse until there is absolutely nothing left. There are a couple of dozen species now out of over 6,500 that ought to be represented up and down the coast. That's it. And those are just barely hanging on. So you hang on, and we'll be right back with Dana in just a couple of minutes. I'm just screening these before and after pictures again, and take a look. Just take a look. Pictures, they speak for themselves. There's a little bit of green, looks like one, maybe two species on some of the pictures on the right, and that's it. No sea stars, no sea anemones, no nothing. Thousands of potential species should be there, and nothing there. All gone.
And if all the species were to disappear in the shoreline, just 4 million in the ocean would fill it all up again immediately.
Yeah.
And that on a healthy coast, you can plow in 1,000 miles of coastline, and in 2 months it would be filled completely up again. But you would never get rid of it. The next tide would be all kinds of life there. And eventually, within 2 months, it would be filled up again. Mm-hmm. Hey, that headline, urchins could be the next victims of sea star wasting disease.
Okay, that first of all, sea star wasting disease is a lie.
Yeah, which is nonsense, of course. But it's interesting that even in that article, as they said at the very end of it, but it can't be proven that a sea star wasting disease. And there's no disease. I talked to the director of Banfield, and he tried to tell me that too. And I said, no, wait a second. I read the studies, and they don't name they call it a mystery pathogen, a mystery virus rather, or but they don't name it actually as a disease. There is no name, and so they haven't showed a picture of it. They show us a picture of Ebola, but they can't show us. No. Feeling a bit better too talking to you, Jeff, tonight. I noticed. That's good news.
No, that's good. You need to feel as good as you can. This too shall pass. This is going to go away. It will go away. Your work, you see, you're ahead of your time in terms of what the media has done to the people of Canada. And when the people of Canada begin to see the reality, and you're going to get the publicity, you're going to get as much as possible from this, and they're going to notice that they've been lied to, and they're not going to like this. It's going to put pressure on provincial, regional, local government. All the different layers of government are going to start getting heat. It's too late. They have caused this to escalate phenomenally. You were just puttering along and doing your thing. We were doing our thing. And now what they've done is given you, literally, and your data and your research, front page, coast to coast, in Canada, news coverage. You couldn't have bought that coverage.
No, you couldn't, no. No, I always figured it would be a knock on the door and somebody there with a camera and the story is broken. But I didn't know it would be a knock on the door in my pajamas and somebody got a warrant. Thank goodness it was the people that it was, though, because they were extremely... they came to my other door, and I had one door open, and they stayed at the other door that I never used and waited for me. And, you couldn't ask for any better than that.
That's really nice to hear.
Yeah. That, in other words, I was expecting the thugs to come in. They were hoping it was going to be like that. But the police must have watched my videos and realized that I wasn't a bad person at all, and that I was showing the information as I talk. And that's the good side coming up, is that after the 18th, I'm going to be starting the blog again by the looks of it, but with a 2-minute delay in case I say anything. There's a lot of things I can't say. So I got to be so careful. It's so difficult to have a conversation. And
will you be able to? It's going to be a painstaking progress, but go through your videos and find. You got to put those back up at some point, if you can.
Yeah, like you say, 300 videos, and so that was the context, and because that told the whole story and the progression, and I got better and sharper and better better with the technology and the software, and I was telling the story much better. Yeah. And like was it all together. But for the people who don't know any better, is that it's not our fault. We didn't do this. The industry done it. They knew what they were doing. Dr. Raymond Gilmedi's studies for the last 35 years showed that the radiation killed animals and mammals proficiently within about 3 or 4 years. Massive cancers, 144 beagle dogs and puppies in one study. They were all dead within 4.5 years. And there was 90 of them had this cancer, 20 had that cancer, the rest of them had these cancers.
And this is low-level dosage?
It was nothing compared to what we're getting.
Oh, my.
Right? Wow. It's nothing. It's insignificant compared to what we're after getting and what we continue to get. And that our drinking water standards in Canada are way above anything imaginable. Well, and so the heartaches are coming.
Yeah, that's what they did. First the Japanese raised these so-called safe levels of exposure to a handful of radionuclides. Yes. Then the United States came along and raised our so-called safe levels of exposure way higher than theirs.
Yeah.
The Obama administration knew what was coming, and they raised one up, was it 17 or 27,000 times higher than it had been? Just incredible.
Japan originally raised it 70 times what a kid would get before they would take potassium pills. But that only protects you from just one thing. But nevertheless, it was an omission, see? Why raise it during a nuclear accident?
Absolutely.
Oh my goodness.
They raised it so high here. It was, I'd laugh, but it's not funny.
No, it's frightening to go along the coastline. And to me, that's the tragedy of it, is that the country is going to tear itself apart as it finds out. I've never showed pictures before, true great criticism. And it's only because I don't want to cause a panic until I got all the data up on the website and had a documentary created that had context and had answers and had some solutions. Because I seen it in my friends and family's eyes when I did show them before and after in stubborn arguments. And I said, here, look at this. And I just seen the wind come out of their sails. And I can't do it until I have enough there in place. And all I can really say to everybody is, have your faith in me. And on the 19th, I'm going to show up on the internet again. And on the 19th, anybody who watches my videos after that will get it. And because I'm forced to do what I had to do, and now we need to have that. We need to move. We evacuated the Tetra River in the 50s permanently, 7,500 communities, and we have to do the same thing.
7,500 communities.
Right, permanently.
Wow.
And I mean, that's amazing, but that's something you rarely hear about unless it's someone like myself. And certainly I've never heard anybody else say it, and I've read it, and I've read it repeatedly. But they're going to have to do it through all the Pacific Rim nations.
They are. They're going to have, absolutely. Northern Hemisphere first, and then the southern.
You guys also.
The west coast of these formerly United States has yet to even begin to grapple with the problem. I saw a graph, not a graph, it was just an animation, a representation of the Pacific Ocean and the western states of Washington, Oregon, California, Northern California. And the intensification of the radiation off northern Oregon, southern Washington was so high it represented as a big red circle in the ocean. Huge area of deadly radiation that was completely compacted into a circular form and moving right toward, like a bomb, right toward the shore. It should be on shore by now, but you never hear about it. Hold on a minute, we'll be right back with Dana Durnford as we continue. Hey, welcome back. The losses of salmon and other large fish in the northeastern Pacific are enormous. I ran a story a couple of days, this is out of the Globe and Mail. Millions of BC salmon mysteriously, quote, just disappear, end quote, in troubling year. There were very poor returns on the Fraser River, where only about 2 million sockeye returned, far short of the more than 6 million predicted in the preseason forecasts. They expected 6 million to return. Only 2 showed up. Even more dramatic was the collapse of the pink salmon on the Fraser, with only about 5 million fish showing up when more than 14 million had been predicted. Where are these fish going, folks? They're dying. They were coming home to spawn. They didn't show up. They die. They eat little fish, which eat bigger fish, which eat bigger fish, and the dose they get is enough to kill them. They're dying en masse. And God help whatever eats the salmon. But this is all on, you can all look at it at Rense.com. It's all there. Millions of salmon mysteriously just disappear off the west coast. Literally within 2 days, they disappeared. The whole fishing market just collapsed, crashed. These people are just thunderstruck. They don't know what to say. And what they do say, unfortunately, is the wrong thing. They start talking about virus, bacteria, solar, ultraviolet light, global warming. They never say radiation. They just won't. They're doing what they're told. You don't talk about that. Doesn't happen. The Japanese know. They got 1 million cancers over there minimum now that are going to kill people. They got to get rid of the Olympics in Tokyo. That just can't happen. It's time to get to the point where let's move it. Just get it out of there. The Olympics of death. No thanks. Okay, Dana. So you're back in court on the 19th.
Yeah, 18th, and
yeah,
that's
it's a week
just
from
to
this
set the
Wednesday,
date and
right?
everything.
Oh, I see.
And see if they're serious, if they're still going to continue on with the charade.
They could drop it then, couldn't they?
They could, and like in one sense we don't want them to drop it. In one sense we're going to get them on the stand.
Oh, you put them on
can't
the
imagine
stand?
that
Oh,
happening.
my.
That's not the idea of what they're doing.
Yeah.
And that's a law school,
Yeah.
right? So, like, what's what I'm saying here? But
Yeah. No, I hear you. Well, I can say it. If you get these people on the stand, it's going to get ugly real fast. You've got the proof. It's very simple.
Get them to understand. That's the only silver lining in this one.
Yeah.
I laugh every time I think about it because it's preposterous that they could. That's the whole problem. They can roll out lots of people that are 10 times smarter than I am, that can eviscerate everything I got to say in many senses. with more style and more eloquence and much more articulating.
Correct.
But they can't. They just can't do it because anybody that rolls out got a history of bananas and potato chips.
That's right.
It's just, they can't beat me. That's the problem.
How could
It's
anybody?
so sad. I wish they could.
How could anybody talk about bananas and potato chips as any kind of equity with what's going on? I mean, it's
That's
pathetic.
what they went to university. They got the whole education, but when they talk to the media, they say bananas, potato chips. Nobody, like the people that I go up against, they never have opposition when they're talking. There's never another narrative when they're talking.
No, of course not.
It is.
It's called
if there
propaganda.
is, they're labeled as whatever, but they're never labeled as credible or they're never labeled as valid. And we have terrorist laws because the stuff is dangerous. We have the nuclear waste sites because it's dangerous. We burn billions on security because it's dangerous. We have the fear-mongering in the media because the terrorists might get some and contaminate your town. But if they release some, then it's harmless. The scientists say it's no more than they get from natural radiation every year and blah, blah, blah. It's like, oh my God, they're really saying stuff like that? And they do all the time. And it's what you covered in St. Louis and what we talked about a little bit about that in the ocean.
West Hills landfill, yeah.
Yeah, it never stopped. It's just we stopped talking about it. And that'll continue to do that till the end of time. They can't clean it up. It's impossible.
Well, what's going to happen to the small towns and communities along the BC coast who no longer will be able to make their living from the ocean? What's going to happen to them?
Yeah.
They're going to have to relocate.
They're going to have to run away from the ocean.
Yeah.
And they should be gone. Everybody should be gone right now. We should have been gone in the first week. Long gone. The plume came in. It crossed the Pacific Ocean. It was stretching from one side of the Pacific to the other.
Within a week, correct?
Yeah. And it never stopped coming out of there. We just can't see it or smell it or taste it or touch it.
And another thing, I've said this so many times, the Japanese are burning in their cities. Almost all major cities have a municipal incinerator, or several, and they're burning low-level radioactive waste, and it goes right up in the air. And there's no outcry from the United Nations. The U.S. isn't saying anything about it. It goes up in the air. It either comes down or it keeps on going up in the air and then transits across the ocean. Nobody says anything.
It's a dirty bomb. And the smoke particles from the forest fires come across all the time. Automobile pollution. And this stuff, you can put 2 million atoms, radioactive atoms, on any of those particles, you still wouldn't see the atoms. And so when you get that big stuff can make it over, they spend millions and millions cleaning up the tsunami debris. The coastline is maintaining its temperature all year long from the warm waters from Japan, but the radiation, it can't find its way here. The
lies will not stand the test of time.
Oh, no.
They're running out of time. Tick, 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 tick. They're almost out of time now. And if you go to court with this, it's over.
Their families are going to disown them. All the industry. I'm not saying anybody in particular, nudge, McQueen. I'm just saying the whole industry has fear. The people that work there and that are prestigious in the communities because their time spent there.
Yeah.
And the people that propagated it out there and promoted it, and the media's, like the Globe and Mail earlier you talked about, if you go type in Fukushima and go through the stories, they're almost all on uranium shares and uranium stocks. They're the most bigoted and biased and prejudiced media to write about this imaginable.
Unreal.
They're the ones who come out and try to bludgeon me. And they've done a pretty good job because I can't come out and defend myself. I can't come out and critique the story that they wrote because it could be misconstrued as me breaching my probation.
What do you think the time frame on you being able to do that will be? 19th? Are they going to reevaluate the 12 things you're barred from doing?
I don't think so. I don't.
See, you can't see, folks. Canada doesn't have our Constitution. Now, our Bill of Rights, our freedom of speech, our First Amendment. If we lose that, America's gone. We had better fight to the death to preserve that. We still have it. And Canadians don't have it. I've seen, look, Arthur Topham is on trial right now for his rights to free speech in Canada, to criticize a certain, very small but very powerful group in Canada. I want to get Arthur in any difficulties here, but you can read on my site, Gilad Atzmon, an expert witness. Part 1 is up there right now. His testimony at the trial. This is a Canadian Supreme Court, remember. And Gilad just did marvelously. And I hope the same thing comes to you. This is, and I hope it comes soon. I don't want to see this drug out. We'll keep doing what we do here, and Canadians are, last time I looked, allowed to listen to the program. So we'll do what we need to do here, and you stay within whatever boundaries they give you, and we'll play by the rules, and your day will come, and they are going to really eat crow.
I feel so much better tonight after talking to you, Jeff.
Well, they're going to eat radioactive crow.
Okay, hugs for you and your loved ones, my friend. I'm going to call her.
Thank you. Go to sleep.
Go to bed with a clean conscience for
the
first time. Good sleep tonight as well.
Okay.
Hugs,
sleep well. Sleep well, Tina.
Okay.
All right.
Bye-bye.
That man has carried an enormous load on his shoulders for such a long time, and then to be greeted with this, the height of insensitivity, cruelty, all the rest of it. He should be hailed as a national hero, because his government under Harper and this government under Obama hasn't done anything to warn the people. How many news conferences has the EPA held to inform you and I and everyone here in the Northern Hemisphere about what's going on? Zero. What did the EPA do recently? They shut down, as I wrote, 99 of about 150 EPA radiation tracking and monitoring facilities. They shut them down. So they have nothing to report, right? That's how it is. Thanks to Bob Nichols every week, Your Week in Radiation, and I'm going to put that up, I guess, tonight. Crucial information. We have it for you, and we've been bringing it right along. Please do read the center column in news, and on the right side is the permanent Fukushima archive. It goes all the way back, and you can take a look at that, find almost anything you want. It's all there. All right, we'll continue, and we'll be back with you tomorrow night. We're off and running in another week. Take care.